what if everything was claymation? I too chose to look at a very specific part of what makes claymation movies. And what got my gears going was that nowadays a typical movie is at 24 frames per second, which actually is really low considering, like video games run at 60 and you can do way more. And I read a bunch of people complaining that because we got so hooked on the 24 frames per second standard, they don't make movies at 60 because now it starts to look unnatural to us.
Yeah, I fucking
they
hate
tried
it.
making The Hobbit 60, right?
Looks goddamn awful.
Something like that.
Sorry.
And everyone
Yeah,
thought it looked really weird.
I'm a film nerd,
For some
kind
reason,
of, and yeah, whenever one of my biggest pet peeves is when I go to someone's house when we're watching a movie and they have the motion smoothing on their TV and it looks like a soap opera and I want to die.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yep.
Yeah, soap opera somehow got the extra frames per second of all things
Yep.
that don't need it. But yeah, that's regular movies. Claymation movies actually only get shot at 12 frames per second. So the film will be in 24, but they'll duplicate every frame. So if the entire world is claymation, the entire world only functions at 12 frames per second. And some things are faster than that. So some things don't work. So that was kind of my quest, to find out what breaks when you only have 12 frames per second. And kind of a little bit of the rules, my first thing I thought of was driving. So your wheels are spinning very fast, but if it's a continuous motion, claymation movies, they round out the in-between frames. The car still would move smoothly. It's not like your wheel turns only 12 motions in a second and then doesn't, because physics doesn't work anyway in this, but it works less if you do it that way.
Right.
So basically, I was looking at things that you need to do a specific different thing multiple times a second. So I did look at driving, but specifically the driver's reaction time, if you could actually drive under those circumstances. And then come across the worrying statistic that a driver's reaction time is 1.5 seconds.
Oh, God.
That's pretty slow.
Yeah, and that's that's what they use for crashes and stuff. If you're paying attention to the road, it's half a second, but they use 1.5 for safety, and if you're just paying casual attention to the road. And that's a really long time to and this is the time it takes you to even think to hit the brake. Mm-hmm. So we're not running into problems with the claymation. I'm running into problems of not trusting anybody else on the road anymore.
Hey, joke's on you. I already didn't trust them. Way ahead
So
of you.
I was trying to look at faster things. The next thing I was looking at was typing, especially if you're doing it professionally, like a typist, because a typist can type 75 words per minute, which is translates roughly to 200 characters a minute, and that's 3 to 4 characters per second. But you have 12 frames per second, so you're actually not running into problems there either. So even the speed of typing, isn't quite fast enough to run to problems.
I like your typing sound effects.
Audio medium.
So, as we like to do, I went to sports.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A fastball, a fastball pitch only takes 400 milliseconds to reach home plate, which is about 5 frames. It takes a batter 150 milliseconds to swing, so that's 2 frames. So we have about 3 frames to figure out what the pitch is. And one of those frames is going to be the ball still in the pitcher's hand.
Right.
So you get, the pitcher throws it, you get one snapshot of it 1/3 of the way there, one snapshot of it 2/3 of the way there, and now you have to swing and just hope that from those 2 reference points, you can figure out what the fuck the ball is doing. And I was trying to look at it, see if any other sports were faster than that. And some sports balls end up going a little bit faster than the baseball, but the distances are further.
No, reaction time is shorter than that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them are actually very close, because I think what it is we as humans can do about a quarter second, is our sports level reaction time, and then a 20th of a second is how fast we need to do anything with our bodies. So a lot of sports end up being around in that range. A tennis serve is much faster, it goes 160 miles an hour compared to a fastball, but it takes 500 milliseconds to get all the way to the baseline.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with a hockey shot, goes over 100 miles an hour, but it's still 450 milliseconds to the net. So a lot of sports things end up in that 500 millisecond range. They're all going to be a lot harder, but all technically doable. So I did find 2 things that do not work. First thing is computers. A modern computer processor performs at 2.8 gigahertz on average, or I just picked that one,
That's pretty average, yeah.
which is 2.8 billion hertz. And hertz is just a unitless, well, it's not unitless, but it's just 1 over seconds. So the computer wants to go at 2.8 billion hertz. The universe only works at 12 hertz. So it would take a computer 7.3 years to do now what a computer can do in 1 second. There is a little bit of an out, though, because the video, physical things are 12 hertz. Sound is okay. Sound is not on that same time scale, because sound is like a separate track in these movies.
Yeah.
So you could actually go back to like modem style sound-based information transfer, like when you used to put like your phone in the in the slot to get internet.
Yeah.
And you can actually probably finagle something to make computers work a little bit. So it's not a total disaster, but definitely is not very good. And the next one, which is my favorite, that does not work, is hummingbirds. So a hummingbird flaps its wings 10 to 15 times per second, which is very close to our 12 frames per second. So it's like, oh, they can flap their wings. Problem, it sounds like you can do it, except to flap a wing, you need one up wing and one down wing. So what would actually happen is, on average, the hummingbird's wings will not move. Because the frequency of their flapping is exactly stop motion animation. Another problem is, as fast as they flap their wings, their heart is actually faster.
Oh no.
Their heart beats 21 times a second. So, like, you just don't have enough frames to do it. So your heart rate has to slow down, which I assume would just kill the hummingbird.
So all the hummingbirds die. That's sad.
That's really sad.
But when it's cold outside, they actually enter for a hummingbird, a hibernation state, where their heart only beats 3 times a second, and they don't do a whole lot of moving around. So their heart can function in their hibernation state. They breathe about 4 times a second, so they can do that too. So you can technically have an alive hummingbird. It just would not be very interesting.
At this point, it's just a bird. It doesn't really hum anymore.
A non-moving bird,
Yeah.
because it's either hibernating or just like not moving its wings at all.
So eventually it'll die pretty fast.
So yeah, conclusion, hummingbirds are boring, which I did not expect to end up with starting with claymation.